Humans are simple creatures. We might like to think we're smart, what with our fancy aeroplanes and our silly hats, but parrots are both able to fly and make hats as well, so how smart are we really? In fact, we share a lot with birds, including a love of shiny things. We love shiny things so much that we expend a great deal of effort searching extensively to salvage them. We literally move mountains in our pursuit of shiny things. Doesn't sound so smart now, does it? Such is our obsession with shiny things that it even makes and breaks settlements, and that's why today we're in Charters Towers, a town with a truly titillating past and a terribly mundane current, and one that owes its entire existence to our love of gold. But hang on, the gold rush here ended over a century ago. How is it that a town in such an arid and uninviting area still exists, and more importantly, why does it insist on calling itself the world when it's got pretty much nothing in common with it? Well, let's find out. Situated on the upper Burdekin River, Charters Towers sits in a hot semi-arid zone, which means for most of the year it fucking sucks to exist in this place. With an annual rainfall of only 650mm and temperatures regularly hitting 40 degrees in the summer, this region is almost invariably dry and dusty. If you like eating flies, there's millions here that are just begging for a moist human orifice to crawl into. This turgid little town and many around it owe their existence to gold deposits that were found here in the late 1800s. Jupiter Mossman, a horse boy, that's a boy that looks after horses, not a boy that's half horse, half boy, is revered in this ludicrous locale as the first person to have found gold in the area.
Fucking cunt. Motherfucker. Fucking goddamn it, this grave better be fucking worth it.
Seen here with an Australian Prime Minister and seen here dead, it was during a prospecting trip with his adopted daddy that he discovered gold after a storm scared away the party's horses and he was sent to find them. Upon hearing word of riches to be made, an enormous tirade of hopeful hewers descended upon the region, and according to this sign I found, it became the most important gold mining district not only in Queensland but all of Australia. The goldfields found by Mossman, last name Mossman, not half man, half moss, were the richest in the country at the time, but as Fergie once prophetically sang, all good things must come to an end. Mining reached its peak in 1899, and by the time World War I reared its hideous head, a lack of labour and the depth at which the deposits had to be mined led to the industry becoming uneconomical. Since then, Charters Towers has become a stagnant shell of its former self, and during my research for this video I discovered that for well over a century, absolutely nothing interesting has happened here. You do have to give the place credit though. It tries very hard to break its arm jerking itself off, even going so far as to describe itself as the world. The term came from the nickname Charters Towers gained during the gold rush because apparently back then all you could ever need could be found here. That was in the 1800s though, when all you could ever need was food and a prostitute. There are lots of things that I need, like a camera shop and a safe place to park my car, that definitely do not exist here, and quite frankly, if this actually was the world, then it'd be a world that I don't want to live in. That being said, if you're a bricklayer or even just a fan of bricks, this might be the place you've been wet dreaming about. Most of the attractions here revolve around derelict slabs that were left over after the gold rush ended. Clearly people found it easy to tear down the buildings themselves, but just gave up once they realised that there's no gold and concrete. Along with all this derelict detritus, the hills are littered with World War II bunkers, and honestly, I don't know what people find so interesting about this stuff. Yes, it's history, but it was also World War II, and World War II was about as fun as using your scrotum for shark bait. These bunkers serve no purpose today other than being convenient communes for ailing invertebrates to come and cark it. Now, I don't know much about military intelligence, or any sort of intelligence really, but if I were a Japanese kamikaze in World War II and I saw this sorry excuse for a settlement, I'd be properly pivoting my plane toward the towers. Obviously there weren't any actual towers here back then, but the place was named after these hills, which I guess if you're an illiterate 19th century prospector kind of resemble towers. If it were up to me, I'd have called the place Charters Small Rocky Lumps, but apparently nobody here shares my point of view because over time the townspeople have taken the name very literally and built several actual towers on top of them. Way to expose the bunkers, guys, now they know exactly where to find us. While these dirty little sugar lumps may be littered with the rotten carcasses of buildings past, the town itself is full of ridiculously ornate Gold Rush era constructions. It's quite absurd how many absolutely stunning examples of Victorian architecture exist here, and you can spend hours wandering around exploring their various nooks and trying not to stick your finger in any of their supple old crannies. It really feels like you're stepping back in time to an era where getting into knife fights over mining claims was a common leisure pursuit. In the last episode we talked about the Burdekin River, and Charters Towers is yet another parasite leeching off this poor unfortunate waterway. Believe it or not, a common problem that people have in places where it hardly ever rains is that water is quite hard to come by, so the weir here was built in 1902 to alleviate this issue. Despite the council's best efforts to erect signs telling people not to go near it, it's quite evidently become a favourite frolicking spot for the local townspeople, with activities here including watching birds shit all over rocks, collecting dead crustaceans that don't look like they belong this far away from the ocean, and throwing your rubbish on the ground like a grub. If you could commercialise turning parks into punji pits filled with broken glass and needles, you wouldn't need to find gold in these hills to get rich. Creativity, however, can be commercialised, but it's something that the residents here just ain't buying. There are a multitude of mesmerising epithets to be discovered, which include Drinker Stubby Downs, Chloride Street, and Balls Gully. Haha, balls. I know that's funny because the sign on the other side of the bridge has been stolen. Something that unfortunately can't be stolen, however, is the local train station. This execrable erection was built in the 80s and was opened by none other than the crocodile hunter himself, Bob fucking Catter. There aren't many passenger trains that pass through here these days, but if you are unfortunate enough to have Charters Towers as your final destination, rest assured by the fact that directly across the street is a bottle shop. Grab a litre of vodka, consume it intravenously with a needle you found at the weir, and for at least one night you'll be able to forget that you're marooned in this arid hellhole. Even the bloody animals here have something to hide. While this may just seem like a normal, completely innocuous horse, I soon found out that this seemingly ordinary equine had some sort of mysterious dark past that he didn't want to talk about.
Oh my god. Why are you chained up? What happened? Oh, you're in horse jail. You poor bastard. Please don't bite me. Please.
Even if he did want to talk about it, this particular horse was only able to communicate in whinnies, and I don't speak horse, so I went to find some other livestock that were a bit more receptive to conversation. My search proved fruitless, but I did find a big bunch of brainless bovines. These inane ungulates also didn't sprechen my deutsch, so I wasn't able to warn the poor hapless halfwits of just what sort of fate had befallen them. Then again, if you spend all day eating shit off the ground, then maybe you deserve to become a delicious fleshy cog turning Charters Towers' bent up old wheels. With bugger all gold left in the area, this town's found a second life as a centre for the agriculture industry in the region, and it now boasts an enormous sale yard for cattle. I tried counting all the cattle here, but I don't even know how to spell the word number, so that didn't last very long. All I know is there's a lot of cattle. There's also a lot of abandoned shit. Have I mentioned that already? Venture a short distance south of the town and you'll discover a repugnant reminder of humanity's never-ending pursuit of money.
Holy fuck. Oh my god, the scale of this place is fucking enormous. Like, it's just huge. I've never seen anything like it before in my life, and there's tyres down there, there's bits of rubbish over here, a couple of tanks. Like, I do not believe that this is the best that they could do with their cleanup. Like, it's just insane. How do we just leave this here?
Of all the gold we've ever mined, only 10% of it is used in industry. The rest is stored as wealth, either as bars in a bank or bangles on a bimbo. Most of its value is entirely superficial, yet we go to extraordinary lengths to find it. When the metal's mined out, all we're left with are enormous pockmarks permanently etched into the face of our beautiful planet. There's nothing wrong with liking shiny things, it's just a shame that we can't be bothered to clean up so many of the messes that we've made. But that's just what humans do. Our history is full of stories that never get cleaned up. The Flinders Highway, which runs east-west through the town from Townsville to Mount Isa, has its own unpleasant narrative, with 12 people either murdered or missing without a trace on the road since 1970. On New Year's Eve 2017, 22-year-old Newcastle man Jaden Penno-Thompson stormed away from his friend in Charters Towers. They were on a road trip from Newcastle to Cairns and had got into an argument about drugs that were missing from their stash. Police flippantly told his mother that he'd probably run off with a Swedish backpacker before conducting a massive search in the region, but no trace of him was ever found. She believes her son was murdered. Jane's disappearance, as well as many others, has led to the theory of a serial killer who roams the highway, but whether or not this is true is inconsequential. For now, he remains another statistic on North Queensland's so-called Highway of Death. Charters Towers may have a history of a short boom and an exceedingly protracted bust, but there is a ton of beauty to be discovered here. You just have to squint your eyes, swat away the flies, and pretend not to notice all the rubble lying around. What the town lacks in creativity and interesting activities, it makes up for with fascinating stories and a bucket load of unbelievably stunning heritage buildings, and that alone makes the place worth visiting. While the world here may be one of dust, trucks and cows, some people seem to like that. I'm not one of those people, but I don't need to be. This isn't my world to live in. If big golden rocks don't knock off your socks, if criminal cults don't spur your scrutiny, if the lure of precious metal leaves you unsettled, then I have one suggestion for you, my friend. Don't go to Charters Towers. And now a haiku. A town full of gold, wealth, valor, and Vegemite. How am I still bored?